Gabe Eltaeb at his best was a colorist for DC Comics. Colorists, unfortunately, even the best ones are largely ignored. Gabe is not really a good colorist, and he's super annoying. So I don't think anybody knows that Gabe went Comicsgate. I mean, Mark Brooks might know. Mark Brooks didn't even know who Gabe Eltaeb was when Gabe Eltaeb was stalking his booth. Gabe Eltaeb, who, by the way, let me just say this before I get into why I'm going to dunk on Gabe. Gabe accused me of a... should I do... I made a video about this where I complained about it once. I don't know if I want to complain about it again. It's so fucking awful. It's so bad. Gabe was Comicsgate. He came over, he begged it to be a part of Comicsgate. He used to send me a bunch of messages saying, you can't keep me out, Ethan. You know, listen, I'm Comicsgate, whether you like it or not. I've been coloring for Doug TenNapel. I colored some stuff for your boy Zach. I've been Comicsgate. You can't keep me from being Comicsgate. I'm coming over. And then Gabe said, I got a tip for you. He's like, two things. One, he said, Andy Corey, who was one of your arch enemies, an editor at DC Comics, made a pass at my 18-year-old daughter while she was there. And I've got this info. I'm sitting on it. I'm thinking about like doing something about it. He's like, so just so you know, Andy Corey, who is your enemy and is employed at DC Comics, made a pass at my teenage daughter. And Andy Corey, I don't know how old he is. He's got to be 40 something. And I was like, God damn, Gabe, that's like incredible news. Like, that's amazing. Like, you should do something about that. Like, you know, DC Comics does have a little bit of a reputation for being an unsafe place for women because the guys over there will come. We've talked about how some people in power have snatched people's families away from them, stole their girlfriends, stole their wives and things like that. The power imbalance over there is incredible. So for you to show up as a colorist and then an editor, your editor, took a pass at your teenage daughter, like, what the fuck are you supposed to do about it? And that's what's so evil about it. Like, hey, I'm going to try to fuck your kid. You know, if allegedly, this is what Gabe told me. I don't have firsthand knowledge of it. This is what Gabe told me. I'm going to try to fuck your kid. What are you going to do about it? Because if you make trouble, you make a scene, then I'm going to make sure that you don't get work at DC Comics anymore. And I was like, wow, that's like really something. Like, you could make hay of that. And he's like, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it, Ethan. As a Christian man, it's really annoying. And I was like, yeah, I can understand that. Well, then he goes, hey, the book I'm working on, I want to tip you off about this. Superman's son is going to be gay. They're going to make him gay. And I said, no way. And he said, oh, yeah. He's like, look, and he showed me a sample page or something like that to prove that Superman's son, who is also Superman, they were going to make a big deal revealing that he was gay. And so I said, thanks, Gabe. And I ran with it. I made a bunch of videos spoiling DC Comics' reveal that Superman was gay and got out way in front of it and made them have to defend themselves. Even Bleeding Cool didn't have that scoop. Gabe got it to me because Gabe was a colorist over there. And Gabe's like, don't tell anybody that I told you because then I'm going to lose my... Gabe's not working there ever again. And then pretty much people figured it out, and Gabe got fired from DC Comics. How did this leak? Probably the guy, you know, the MAGA guy over there, or whatever it is. Anyway, Gabe was now welcome into Comicsgate because he had, you know, involved himself so heavily, and he was, you know, came over here and started demanding favors from me. And then he started pushing people out of Comicsgate. Like, he started to accuse people of some stuff, including his artist, David Williams, who the two of them came up with something called Truth, Justice, and the American Way together that they were going to crowdfund. It was kind of like a little bit like Alpha Core. In fact, it was exactly like Alpha Core before Alpha Core even existed. David Williams created it, came up with a story. It was like, what would happen if Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman's partners, you know, their little teenage, what do you call them? Sidekicks, were murdered, you know, by villains. And therefore they have to get into action, or I don't even know. I didn't read the final book. I don't know how it went, but that was the idea. David Williams said, the sidekicks have to get murdered. Well, Gabe suddenly, like, I don't know what it was. I think he was upset that David was going kind of slow with the work. And Gabe hit me up. He goes, yo, man. He's like, you got to help me. He's sending me messages all the time. He's like, David Williams has become like Moose Bauman. He's trying to fuck up my project. He's trying to do everything. Like the things that he's making us do with this project. He's like, it's just wrong. He's like, let me just tell you. So I guess like Gabe wanted David gone, and the way he wanted David gone off the project so that Gabe could draw it himself and zoom right through it, was he accused David of celebrating the death of children because the sidekicks die. And Gabe did this whole thing where he's like, my wife and I suffered was it a miscarriage, like a stillbirth, fucking horrible thing. And basically said, David's forcing us to relive it by making us tell this story about sidekicks dying. I said, Gabe, this is insane. This is absolutely insane to rest that on. And I said, you can't do that. He presented that to all the fans. He said, David is making us relive the stillbirth of our child. He showed pictures of the child that, as it was. It's the ugliest, weirdest thing that I've ever seen in my life. So what I did to get rid of Gabe was I pawned him off on Eric July. And I still like that. I still like that Eric was like, I need a colorist. And I said, I know this guy. You can have him. He used to work for Marvel Comics or DC Comics. The good thing that I did for Gabe was that, again, I helped him. I promoted his books. But when I sent him over to Eric July, Eric said, how much should I pay him? And I told him like this inflated rate. I said, you need to pay him this much because he's worth it. He's a DC colorist. And Gabe was very grateful to me about that. I don't know if he still gets that rate. He doesn't deserve it. The work that he's doing on ISOM is not very good. Okay. Anyway, Gabe also opened up this thing called Big Man Comics, which I guess is like a spring. Like this is what came from his time in Comicsgate when he did Truth, Justice, and American Way himself, because David had been kicked off the book. David is now working for me on Fearsome. Gabe went out and he said, Ethan hiring David Williams to work on Fearsome is celebrating or promoting or laughing at the death of my child. And when he said that, he called people up and he told them, hey, you can't talk to Ethan anymore. The fact that he's working with David Williams, he's like celebrating the death of my, he's calling people and trying to, like, Gabe is part of like a whisper network where he's going around getting people on the phone and trying to pressure them into disliking me intensely and not associating with me anymore. And he did this, and one of the people he did this to came forward to me and said, you're not going to believe what Gabe is doing. Like, this is what Gabe's saying about you. So Gabe, of course, gave me a nice knife in the back on the way out after causing me no end of trouble and upsetting a lot of people and asking for a lot of favors that he didn't really deserve. And what are you going to do? Like, if you're not working with me, you've got to work with. Oh my God, you got to do something else. You got to find some other friends, I guess, to associate with. So Gabe is trying to do that. Gabe is, running around. I think he sees the writing on the wall about the Rippaverse. The writing on the wall, which is just like a straight line going downwards that we just looked at. Writing on the wall. It's like, this is, oh, okay. Well, I guess disenfranchising myself from Ethan Van Sciver to go hang out with Eric July might not have been the best idea. Because, Eric had his peak, but, he's descending. It's like he can't make comics. He doesn't know how to make comics. So Rippaverse just isn't going to last very long.